All right, we're live. Okay, so this is Thomas Pepin NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, as I'm assuming you could guess, and I'll be talking about the NHL. So let's get right into it. The plan today first is to do a recap of the off season, and then from there we'll go into my predictions for the season. And I'll kind of explain where I think every team is at when I'm going through those predictions. So just 1 second here to pull up a couple things. And I should say this is all unscripted. I just have the same outline as you guys do in the description for the stream. So it's just going by the fly, and we'll see. I guess you guys will be as surprised about what I'll say as I will be about what I'll say. So yeah, just a second here to pull up. Okay, so in the description there, you'll have a link under what I'll be talking about today. So it'll bring you to an ESPN.com article titled Lapsed Fans Guide to the NHL Season Trade Signings and More. And it's by Greg Wyshynski, I believe is the pronunciation. I hope that's correct. And basically it goes through everything that happened in the off season. And so I'll kind of scan through it, talk about different things that have happened. And I'll probably not give too many comments on it because I'll go over everything in my predictions. But yeah, here and there, I might have a couple comments. So, okay. So, as I'm sure most fans know, Colorado won the Stanley Cup. And since that point, went into off-season free agency, the draft and things like that. I think I'll skip on things related to COVID. Kind of boring. Most people are kind of tired of hearing about all the impacts of COVID on hockey. Thankfully, a full season went through, so that's good news. But yeah, we'll pass by that. First section it has here is Johnny Hockey. So Johnny Gaudreau chose not to re-sign with Calgary. He moved on to Columbus with a 7-year, $9.75 million average annual value for his contract there. Likewise, Matthew Tkachuk left Calgary, so that's a big change in their players from this offseason. He went over to Florida. He signed for 8 years, $76 million extension. The Flames managed to pick up, or sorry, I should say, I forget if I said Tkachuk was traded to Florida and then signed. Huberdeau and Uyghur came back. Since then, Huberdeau signed an extension, $10.5 million annually, and the Uyghur contract was just signed. Don't know it offhand. And another important note was Kadri signed with the Flames as well. Next section talks about the goalie changes. So We have Kemper in Washington, Georgiev in New York, the Rangers, Vanacek in New Jersey, Samsonov went to Toronto. That's Ilya Samsonov from Washington, Vanacek from Washington. Campbell from Toronto went to Edmonton. Senators traded Talbot, Wild traded Talbot to the Senators. Husso from St. Louis signed in Detroit. And actually a really important note is Robin Lehner's going to be out for the season, so that's a big hit to Vegas. Free agents, Malkin, Letang, and Rust, I believe, re-signed. Rust re-signed with Pittsburgh too, so they all re-signed. Bergeron re-signed in Boston. Krejci came back from the Czech Republic to play in Boston again. Chara, next section, Chara retired. Surprisingly to me, Subban retired. Duncan Keith retired. That's not a surprise. I think he had injury problems too, so not surprising. What else? Oh, yeah. So Ottawa Senators are much improved. Of course, picking up Talbot in net, and then Giroux, they traded for, picking him up from. Or sorry, no, he signed free agency with. As you can tell, this is on the spot, so there's so many moves that happen. It's hard to keep track of what happened exactly. So anyway, Giroux signed with Ottawa. My mistake there. Hurricanes traded for Burns, Max Pacioretty, and signed Stastny. Kings traded for Fiala. Red Wings signed David Perron, Andrew Kopp, Dominic Kubalik from previously the Blackhawks, and Ben Sherratt, previously Panthers. Rangers signed Trocheck. Ducks signed Klingberg, defenseman from Dallas, really good defenseman there, which is a big improvement to their D-core. Andre Palat, unfortunately for Tampa, signed in New Jersey. I guess that's the biggest moves. McKinnon signed an extension. And there's for the largest contract ever in the NHL. And a number of other people signed extensions. I won't go over all of them. So anyways, those are kind of the main deals that went on. And I guess for the most part, everything else I'll kind of cover in my predictions for the year. So let's have at it. So if you take a look at the description for the stream, you'll see my predictions by division in order, as well as my Stanley Cup Final prediction and Stanley Cup Champion prediction. And we'll go through that. So I'm just going to pull up Cap Friendly, and we'll go through teams, their rosters and stuff as we go through the predictions here to kind of make sense of my predictions. So let's start with, as you'll see in the description there, the Atlantic. So I have the Panthers first, Lightning second, Bruins third. I have the Leafs missing the playoffs, Red Wings, Senators, Canadiens, and Sabres behind them. And then I'll kind of just go over the rationale kind of behind it all. So in my opinion, basically the Panthers, Lightning, and Bruins should, and I say should because every season there's always things that you don't expect to happen that turn out happening. They should stand out from the other teams there. Now, I'd say Boston's a little bit closer to being on the line there, but Panthers and Lightning should be in pretty solidly. Oh, and actually, that just reminds me, I missed talking about the coaches there. Give me 1 sec to get back there. I should finish that. Where is it? Yeah, so sorry. Just to finish on the offseason, the coaches, I forgot to mention about that. So Bruce Cassidy is over in Vegas. Montgomery is in Boston now, Jim Montgomery. Pete DeBoer went over to Dallas. Winnipeg signed Bonus. Maurice is in Florida, which that was a reminder for me to go back and talk about the coaches there. And Tortorella and Philly. So I guess those are the main coach changes. So sorry. Now going back to the predictions there. So one of the main reasons, kind of with the Panthers being at the top there, is the coaching change. So I think Maurice is going to make a big improvement to the team. I believe it was Brunette was the previous coach. And I mean, he was relatively inexperienced. They did quite well under him, but I think a steady coach will bring a steady team, is my opinion. So given the fact that they're so deep, have a good coach now, or I should say a veteran coach, I think it'll make a big difference to the team. So pretty deep on forwards, strong defense, strong goaltending. I mean, can't get much better than that. And then number 2, I had Lightning. I'm always waiting for them to have an off season and miss the playoffs. It's a surprise every single time that they make it, or make it so far, I should say, after they get to the, back-to-back Stanley Cups, getting to the final. I mean, for a team to do that and have no fatigue, or at least no apparent fatigue, it's quite impressive. So if they've done it the past couple seasons, I can't count them out. So have Tampa up there. But even though I think Tampa's a stronger team, I think there's got to be some sort of fatigue which puts them behind Florida there. But Boston, deep team, getting older. Bergeron still produces, so it's not like the age is really impacting. Getting back Krejci's a big deal. To have another centerman in the fold is going to really help them a lot. One more year of experience for Swayman, I think, is going to make a difference. And so, yeah, I'd say goaltending is probably their weak point. Team save percentage is quite reasonable. According to the analysis I've done, which takes a look at the past 5 seasons and weights things differently, I have Boston's goaltending at 7th. So, at least by the numbers, they're strong enough. Experience-wise, don't know. That's kind of my question mark with Boston. But they've got Montgomery, decent coach, deep team, should be a good team. But like I said, they're one of those teams that's kind of on the bubble there. Leafs, it's pretty funny that I have them out of the playoffs. So I'm just going to pull up the odds to kind of make a couple of comments here. It's pretty funny, the contrast in my predictions versus what the odds makers have here. So odds makers have Toronto at a 9-1, second best odds of winning the Stanley Cup. I'm sorry, guys, I can't see that happening. I can see them making the playoffs. I'm not saying they're not good enough to make the playoffs, but compared to the other teams, I think they're just on the out. And that goaltending tandem with the algorithm that I put together, I have them ranked 28th. 6th in scoring, 28th in goaltending. So you better outscore the other teams really, really well, or else you're going to be in trouble. So, anyways, they're not that deep of a team. They got really good high-end talent, but man, that goaltending, I don't have much faith in it. So we'll see how that pans out. I wouldn't be surprised if I get proven wrong, but I have Toronto on the out. So basically what I'd say, so like I said, with Boston, I'm not super confident about that one. I'd say Boston and Toronto are kind of interchangeable. From there, the Red Wings, I think they're just a step behind. I'd put them kind of in the same bucket, so they're more or less interchangeable. Behind that, I think Ottawa's a bit too far. The rest, I think Montreal's no shot at making the playoffs, and Buffalo even worse. So, anyways, that's the rationale there for that division. And you'll notice that I cut it off at 3. So considering the wild card, I'll move over into the Metropolitan division here to kind of explain why it stops at number 3 there. So in Metropolitan, there's the Penguins. I have number 1. I have Washington 2nd, Islanders 3rd, Rangers 4th, and Hurricanes 5th. So I have the Hurricanes beating out the Leafs for the final wild card spot there. Then, of course, behind that, Flyers, Devils, Blue Jackets. So, yeah. So the one thing, again, you never know how things pan out in the season. Pittsburgh always seems to have problems with injuries. So my major concern is Pittsburgh runs into more injuries. Seems like Malkin's always injured. Crosby gets injured here and there. So it's kind of tough. Really good team, really deep, good D. I'd say goaltending's kind of their Achilles heel. Jari has had difficulties in the playoffs. Mind you, everybody goes through tough times, and they can turn out playing really well eventually. So, so I'm pretty high on Pittsburgh. Good team, deep, stable coaching, long-term coach. So they should be good. That's why I have them at number one. Number two, I have Washington. Now, I always struggle with keeping Washington up high, but man, do they ever score. Like, it's unreal how good they are at scoring. So, in my algorithm that I put together, I have them at third expected scoring. Well, and also first in goaltending now that they have Kemper. But yeah, it just seems it. I don't know how they score so well. I'd say one of their strongest suits is they always have a good coach, a coach that's that's won a lot of games, lots of experience. They got Laviolette there. It's a good team. I'm not saying it's not a good team. They won the Stanley Cup with similar players, and yeah, I'm always surprised at how well they do. So anyway, so I have them number two just from the underlying data. If it was gut instinct, I'd have them lower, but can't do that. Got to follow the data. So have them second. Islanders third. Don't know how they missed the playoffs last year. That for me was a shocker. Goaltending was outstanding. Really surprised that they missed the playoffs. Also surprised at the coaching change. They have Lambert in. Don't have. Oh, geez. How am I gapping on his name? Barry Trotz. Geez. Yeah, losing Trotz, and him taking time off for, I believe it was family reasons. I was thinking he was going to go in Winnipeg there, but man, so it's a big change coaching. It's going to be tough with new coaching, team that underperformed from a scoring standpoint. Goaltending was great, like I said. Defense is pretty good. They just couldn't score. So can they get back to how they have been previously? Who knows? It's hard to say, but just based on the underlying data, they should be good enough. I have them 13th in scoring, fourth in goaltending. So if they can't score, I think their goaltending is going to be good enough to get them in there. Really bad start to last season. So as long as they can keep things relatively straightforward, stable from the start, they should be in. But as I'm sure you can gather, this is where I think it's kind of not as certain of who's going to be in. So, like I said, Leafs are kind of interchangeable with Boston. The Red Wings, I kind of have maybe Islanders in that group. I'd have the Islanders in Boston slightly higher than the rest, but Rangers, Hurricanes, Leafs, Red Wings, I think are kind of all in this bucket. Could be any one of them, any number of them that make the playoffs. We'll see in the end, of course, who makes it. But Rangers went deep last year, pretty much the same team. Really good coach. I think probably, at least a chunk of people, really underrated coach there. Don't know how he lost his job in Vegas in the end. Well, I know there was a lot of politics related. I forget what I watched. It was like one of the NHL's behind the scenes kind of stuff. So, yeah, no idea why he left there, or why he was let go from there. But yeah, Gallant is a heck of a coach. So, so we'll see. I think they're going to need really good goaltending to keep them in the playoffs. I think with the improvements to the Red Wings and the rest of the teams in the conference, because they play each other more, it's going to be tough for them. So, yeah, they're going to be leaning heavily on Shesterkin, and yeah, they're going to live and die on their coaching and goaltending, is what I'd say. But I mean, they obviously have high end scoring and teams good, but according to my data, I have them 23rd in scoring, second in goaltending. So if you're that low on scoring, it's going to be tough to make the playoffs. But I think experience, good coaching, good goaltending is going to get them in there. And then Hurricanes, for the most part, I believe they're relatively unchanged. I mean, they have Burns now, Stastny. Yeah, so they've got high-end talent. Good enough D. I'd say relatively decent goaltending. But I have them towards the bottom there. I don't think they're as strong as they have been in previous years. So behind that, Flyers, Devils, Blue Jackets, all improved, but I don't think they have enough to make it. So yeah, I'd put pretty much Flyers, Devils, Blue Jackets in the same kind of realm as Senators. Not inconceivable that they make the playoffs, but I'd say unlikely. So yeah, so that's the Eastern Conference, and we'll move over to the Western Conference, which for me, having watched so much of the Western Conference, I'm a Jets fan. Man, does it ever look weak, and especially according to the data analysis that I've done here. So, starting over in the Pacific, we've got Oilers first, Canucks second, Flames third, Knights fourth, Kings outside of a spot. I think the Kings and Knights are kind of interchangeable. Losing Leonard in Vegas, man, they're going to rely heavily on their forwards and D. Really good team, really, really deep in forward and defense, and good coach coming in. But man, without a solid goalie, they're going to struggle, I think. So, and like really inexperienced goaltending too, all things considered. So, they have Brossoit and Logan Thompson. Logan Thompson played quite well in some of his starts there, but yeah, man, that's not a good enough goaltending core. I mean, there's other players. So Aiden Hill, I don't think he's in the top two. He could be better than Thompson. I don't know how it's all going to pan out, but yeah, at least they have some depth. They have Hutchinson in the fourth spot there, I think. So they've got depth if there's injuries, but man, none of those names stand out to get you into the playoffs. And the fact that they didn't make it last year, like it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs. So, anyways, so Oilers, I'm not hot on Campbell, but I think in the end, all you need is good enough goaltending. As long as the rest of your team's good, you can go through and win the cup. So, man, that scoring power in Edmonton is impressive. And now with what you would expect to be more stable goaltending than they've had ever. I'm really high on the Oilers. I'll kind of cover that a bit later when I say about the winners. The final and the expected winners. So, but man, that team, scoring power is just so impressive. I'm really high on them. Now, like I said, so I think the Western Conference is quite weak. So considering their power, I think it's an excellent opportunity for them to go deep. Canucks missed the playoffs again. Was pretty surprised about that. Bring in a stable coach with Boudreau. He's won year after year. So coach having been there for a little while, they're kind of stable. Deep team, I think, at least. Good goaltending with Demko there. I'd say decent defense, pretty good high-end defense, but with Hughes there, Ekman Larson. But yeah, I think a pretty solid team, pretty stable team. They should be in the playoffs. With my algorithm, I have them 12th and 13th, which, as I'll cover later with the rest of the Western Conference, 12th for scoring, 13th for goaltending. That's pretty darn good for the Western Conference because all the power's in the East, it looks like. So, so I pretty much have Vancouver a lock in there. Flames, believe it or not, the odds makers have them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th, tied for 6th for best odds of winning the cup. I'm not really nearly as confident that, because the Western Conference is weak, I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they're nearly as good of a team. Losing Tkachuk and Gaudreau. Yeah, man, they lost a lot of scoring. So I'm gonna actually bring up the numbers here and kind of elaborate on that briefly. So they pick up from Kadri and Huberdeau last year. 28 goals from Kadri, which is pretty high for him. And then 30 for Huberdeau. And then you take a look at Tkachuk and Gaudreau. Give me a second to pull up their numbers here. Where are they? So they're there. So you lose 40 from Gaudreau and you lose 42 from Tkachuk. Okay, so combined 82, they lose, they gain 58. So, that's a lot of goals. To make up those goals, well, in Kadri, I think, not that he overperformed, but he performed kind of at his peak on a really good Colorado team with lots of offense. Man, I see them regressing in their scoring. So, yeah, they might do decent. They should make the playoffs. They might go relatively deep because the Western Conference is not that strong, but there's no way they can be as promising as they were last year with the team they had. So, not as hot on Calgary as a lot of people, but they're not going to be a bad team. And then Kings on the bubble. Won't really speak to that too much because their team's relatively unchanged, I'd say. And then moving over to Central Division, we've got Avalanche 1, Blues 2, Predators 3, Stars 4. Jets I had just on the outside. Wild, Blackhawks, and Coyotes I have not being close enough to making it. So Colorado now with after their roster changes, and according to my algorithm, I had them as 11th in scoring. So that's a big drop because last year I think they were first in my expected scoring. So yeah, I think they're not going to be nearly as good of a team as they were last year. Goaltending, lose Kemper, which puts up good numbers. I'm not that hot on Kemper, but yeah, lose him, and then what was it? Georgiev from the Rangers. They have, I think, as their starter now. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Yeah, and Francouz. I don't have them nearly as close to a favorite to win the cup this next season here. So, and the odds makers have them as 5-1. Those are brutal odds. There's no way I'd put money on Colorado at those odds. They're crazy to have that. I mean, I don't even have them top. I don't have them top 5 teams, and then they have them as number 1. Man, I mean, their scoring is outstanding, and their defense, like, they've got a really, really solid team. I've just won a Stanley Cup, but I can't see them producing at the same rate, especially not with goaltending not being stable. So, anyways, nonetheless, because the Western Conference is so weak, they're still good enough to be number 1 in their division. Blues, man, heck of a team, and how they've managed their salary cap is super impressive. So if you take a look at what they've spent, highest paid player this year, 7.5 for Ryan O'Reilly. Like, man, is that ever good? So they've got their costs under control, really, really well managed from a cap standpoint. And even moving into the next years with their extensions for Kyrou and Thomas, still going to be really solid for their cap. So, man, super impressive. Binnington, I don't think people are as high on him as I am. I'm really, I've been impressed by him, and especially big games before he got injured in these past playoffs. Man, he was looking good. So, and to have Grice as a backup, I mean, I'd say that's a really good tandem. Good deep defense, deep forwards, really good team. I'd say they lack the high end um, scoring that some of the other teams have, which is going to, give them a bit of difficulty to be right at the top. But I have them contending for first in the division. Heck of a team. Really impressed by them. So next, I have the Predators. I'm always surprised again. They're like the Capitals to me. Don't know how they do so well all the time. Surprised by them. Really good goaltending. Really impressed by how Saros has done since they lost Rene, or since he was injured and so on. But yeah, I don't think they're that great of a team. But with my algorithm here, they're 16th in scoring, 3rd in goaltending. So, I mean, that's pretty stable for the Western Conference. So I have them in pretty much a lock in the playoffs. Behind them, Stars, Jets. Pretty much have both of them with the Kings kind of on the bubble there. Don't know how that's going to pan out. We'll kind of, I guess, see how it goes. Jets, it's going to be an interesting year for them. Change of coach, maybe better defensively. We'll see in the end. Who knows? Good high-end scoring. Same for Dallas. Good high-end scoring. More of a defensive style team. Different coach. Good coach that comes into Dallas. So it's hard to say, but those teams aren't nearly as deep. And so this is where we get kind of into the, like I was saying, where it gets funny for the numbers. So Dallas, 21st in expected scoring from my analysis, 22nd in goaltending, and I have them in the playoffs. But you take a look at Winnipeg, 27th in scoring, 12th in goaltending. I mean, goaltending's their only way really to make that team a solid team. Maybe better defensive play. Don't know if the team's capable of it. It's going to be tough. So really, in the end, with Winnipeg, who knows how they're going to pan out. Dallas, who knows? Goaltending's been great for Dallas too, but I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say. Then to contrast, LA, 19th in scoring, expected scoring, and 25th in goaltending. Like, I mean, all these teams are not looking too hot. It's going to be really close at the bottom of the West there. And on that note, actually, just another funny contrast, talking about me not being hot on Calgary. 20th, according to me here, for expected scoring, 9th for goaltending. So, I mean, compared to those other teams, yeah, I mean, they're better, but compared to the rest of the league, man, the Western Conference is not looking that great. So yeah, the high end there, basically, I mean, really all I see is the standout Edmonton in the Western Conference, which is why I have them making the finals. I guess probably a surprise to most, I have the Islanders somehow getting all their way back there. They've been really good previous seasons, gone really deep. Maybe it's just fatigue last year, bad start, fatigue combination. Tough to say, but which would probably be a surprise to most people, I have them making the final, and then the Oilers winning the cup. I think their scoring is just going to be way too good. Another year of McDavid and Draisaitl. Man, they're good. So that's kind of how I have it all shaking out. Those are my predictions, I guess. So first shot at the live stream here. Plan to do this daily, 5 p.m. Eastern. And what I'll talk about, I'm going to kind of decide same day, unscripted. As you can see, a couple of hiccups here for first try, but hey, you got to start somewhere. So yeah, if you have any suggestions on topics, please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll be taking a look at the headlines for the league, deciding on things that are interesting to me, talking about odds and ends that are, again, interesting to me. But yeah, so that's, I think that pretty much covers it. Thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you guys again soon. If you enjoyed, please like the video. Please share it with your friends, subscribe, hit notifications as well. Like I said, it's live stream every day, so you can pretty much be certain, or well, most days I should say. If I go on vacation or something, I might not be posting, but most days, 5 p.m. Eastern, you can pretty much expect to see me here. And if you have notifications, it's going to tell you. Otherwise, just take a look at the homepage for my YouTube channel, and it'll tell you when to expect me. And I should be setting my schedule kind of weekly ahead of time, so you'll have an idea of when to expect me. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys again next time.